Hey y'all, CB here at MBS Welding. I'm in the break room. I want to do a quick explanation in the beginning of this so everybody knows basically what this is. I have a welding channel, obviously, and most of my viewers and subscribers are into welding, and that's what they want to see. However, I got to use the channel sometimes to record things that are important to me. And if it's interesting to you, you might want to watch it. If not, you might not. So I want to make it clear what this is. I have a rental house 250 miles away from here in another state. I bought the house in 1996 when I was working in Charlottesville, Virginia. Because when I got out of high school, I spent about 2.5 or 3 years in Charlottesville, Virginia, where there was a little better economy, and I was doing welding and fabrication work there, and it was easy to find jobs there. So in 1996, I bought that house earlier in the year. Later in the year of 1996, I moved back to West Virginia, and when I did so, I maintained ownership of the property, but I turned the management of the property over to a property management company who rented it out, took care of all repairs, and just dealt with it. And the interesting thing about owning that house and having it dealt with by a property management company is I did not even so much as drive past that property for over 26 years. To get to what's going on now, now it's January of 2026, but I did this work, the remodeling that I did, I decided to remodel the house. I started in 2022, I finished in 2024, and the house has been rented out to a tenant for a little over a year now, I think, and everything's going great. But basically what this video is, during the time that I was remodeling the house, I took video of what I did, and it was about 20 videos total. I had about 20 videos that I shot over a 2-year period while I was remodeling the house. I recently got in a situation where I just spent a couple weeks in a recliner recovering from a surgery, and I decided, since I couldn't do much else, that I would re-edit those 20 videos into one video. So I did that, and it got me to a point where I narrowed it down to where I basically got it to a video that's about an hour and a half long. So I just wanted to disclose that that's what this is. This is the re-edit of that house remodel. To the people, my subscribers that are interested in only welding and fabrication work, you may not want to watch this. And there's a lot of people that may not want to watch it because it's so long. I'm basically using my YouTube channel on this particular video to save this particular video. That's the idea, so that if anybody were to ever want to see it, I got a link I can send them. Most people with the welding may not be interested because there's not much. There is some, but there's not much welding and fabrication work in this. This is a house remodel. The reason that it needs to be saved, and the reason that it's extremely important to me, is because honestly, doing the remodeling top to bottom, left to right, up and down on this house completely by myself is probably the biggest accomplishment to me that I've ever done in my life. And I know it's quite odd for somebody that's been doing welding and fabrication work for over 30 years to say that their biggest accomplishment is a house remodel and not anything that has to do with welding and fabrication. But I think it's even more a source of pride to me because I'm not a professional roofer. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. I don't specialize in laying flooring or mudding and hanging sheetrock or any of these other things that I did to completely redesign and remodel this house. But although I don't do those things for a living, I did those things on this job, and everything's turned out great. And that to me is a considerable source of pride. So if you want to watch it and you're into this, I think it's great. Leave me a comment. And I thank y'all for the support. If you leave a comment, give it a like or subscribe to the channel. So here it is. All right, let's take a look at what we're starting with here. This is a 2-bedroom house, the way it was. Got the family room right here. We go into the kitchen. Place is filthy. There's a chimney in the wall between the family room and the kitchen. Then we got this bedroom. There's some paneling on the wall. It's buckling. Pulled an outlet to see what I was looking at with wiring, and it's bad. This wiring in this place, it's the really old kind of wiring that's so old, like if you just touch this stuff, the coating just comes right off the wire. Really amazing that there wasn't any serious wiring issues before, but there wasn't, and I guess just the wires hadn't been messed with, so they continued to work fine. But they can't stay. It's got to be rewired. And what I'm seeing with the paneling, I'd planned on, when I first looked at it, doing the remodel, that I would tear the paneling off. I see there's drywall behind it and no insulation, so that's got to be torn out. Here we are in the bathroom. This, I think the place was built before there was even running water. It probably had an outhouse in the beginning, and then the bathroom was probably added later, when running water came to be a thing. And then that's probably the reason why, you know, right in the shower you got a window. But it's pretty nasty, you know, this bathroom. And there's stuff on the wall that I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. But it's all got to be ripped out and redone. So that's what we're taking on here. And when I realized really quick when I was staying here that it's a nice neighborhood, quiet. Nobody messed with me really. Just went to work on doing the demo on everything. Tore out paneling. Behind the paneling was sheetrock. Tore out the sheetrock. It's going to allow me to rewire and insulate. It's just a lot of work is all, but it's got to be done, so I'm going to do it. Here we are in the backyard, taking a look what we got back here. One of the main things that looks like it's going to need dealt with is this tree. Really don't want to cut this tree down. This thing's historic. Several feet thick at the base, probably well over 100 years old, and it's really interesting that at some point decades ago, somebody leaned this piece of 3-inch galvanized pipe up against that tree, and we've got 30 years or more of growth of the tree growing around that pipe. That's really interesting. Don't know what to think of that. When I bought the place in '96, that was probably there, and I don't remember. But the tree's going to need to be trimmed. It's being taken over by ivy, and the ivy is going to need to be dealt with. I'm not going to want that to stay. So I'm going to I got people coming to deal with that. I'm going to be probably maintaining that, but I'm not going to be the guy that climbs the tree and trims it with other properties around and limbs over top of other people's property. I just don't want to take that on. I'm going to get an arborist that knows what they're doing and has a crew, and so that's up and coming. But I am keeping the tree. There's a lot of drainage issues and problems being caused by that tree, but it's historic and I want to keep it. Got some of the ceiling done with new sheetrock and wiring, because I need the lights. So I kind of done that piece by piece, and I found out real quick when I was putting that drywall on the ceiling that drywall lift that I brought with me is a godsend. That thing really works great, and it's going to allow me to do this drywall in the ceiling with these 12-foot 10 or 12 foot, you know, sheets of sheetrock. I'm going to be able to put that stuff in by myself. So I'll be tearing out a lot of this tile and putting sheetrock in, and also the first strips that are up there, I run some screws through so there would be more than just the original nails. Run some screws through those to make sure that those were secure. So that's going to be good, and it's nice that there's sheetrock in the ceiling, and then there's first strips, and then there's going to be another layer of sheetrock, and there is insulation in the attic above that. So when I insulate the walls and everything, we're going to be in real good shape there. So I just kind of went and put in where I could put in some lights, and I painted and installed the lights, and this is just stuff I got to do a little at a time. You can see that line where I've painted and where I stopped painting, and I've got some of the wood that is for that basement door downstairs. Got it in here painting and getting dried up and ready to install to repair that door down there. Got the shower unit set in here, and I'll be getting it hooked up and plumbed in. And my plan here is to build a bathroom in what is that front bedroom that you can see the shower unit there. I'm also going to be, you know, building a full bathroom in this area right here, and I'll have it up and operational, and then I'll tear the other one out, and that'll allow me to stay here. So you can see some of these still images, some of the work I did fixing the door, patching stucco, doing some trim around the door, and repairing some trim around one of the windows there above the door, above that basement door. And here we see, I believe the tree's been trimmed now. The arborist has been here, and I think in these images I got the arborist in there, and they trimmed the tree, and they went around the base of the tree, and they took cut about a foot out of the ivy, so that the ivy on the tree is no longer connected to the ivy in the ground. And so they told me it'll take a couple years for that to actually die and start to go away. So anxious to see what the tree looks like when they do that. Here, replacing the water line. All the water lines in the place were steel, screwed together, steel pipe, galvanized pipe. Not the greatest stuff. So that had to be replaced, and I dug this entire trench by hand with a shovel, about 30 feet. I dug that by hand, put in a brand new water line, 3/4 inch, and filled that back in, and I slept really good that night after doing that. Getting this bathroom ready for sheetrock. I've got the insulation put in. I know where the vanity's going to go. I know where the toilet's going to go. The vanity's going to be right here in the corner, and I've got the wiring in for the vanity light and an outlet right here to the left. The toilet's going to go in between the shower and the vanity right in front of the window, and I've got the water supply line plumbed in through the floor for that. Getting some sheetrock put up on the wall and getting some tape and mud going on. And that's all going really well. Another part of the thing that's going on right now is we're getting some rain. and I wanted to be here when it rained because this basement's always flooded, and I've never really been involved with it. This place was managed by a property management company for 26 years, and they hired a company called Basement Systems to dry it up, and the Basement Systems came in and they busted up the concrete around the perimeter of the basement, put in a plastic trough, and that trough goes to a sump and a sump pump. And we can see here why that didn't work. That gray plastic right there, that water's supposed to run down the wall and into that trough that's under the concrete. And as you can see, it's jumping right over that gray plastic, the way that water's spouting out of the wall, and it's coming into the floor. So that's one example right there how it's not working. So I got my hammer drill and I drilled into the hole in the wall where the water was spouting out of there. And then as I drilled, I just kept raising the back of the drill up so that I was drilling downward. So I reshaped that part of the wall so that the water would go down into the trough. And you can see here how that stopped it from spouting out over the trough. So that plastic trough that they put down there in the concrete now will allow that water to flow to the sump that they put in. And in the sump, there's a pump, and that pump will pump it out of there. Most basements that have a sump pump, though, don't have the advantage that this basement does. And the advantage that this basement has is that there's actually property on this property that is at a lower elevation than the bottom of the basement. So you really don't need the sump pump. It's nice that it's there, and I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to have it there for a really bad rain. But I'll show you what I've done here. This is a place where I busted up the concrete, and I put a hole in this section of the plastic trough. Now across this doorway, the trough is different because it has this grate, and I've got a piece of plastic, 1.5 inch plastic pipe, maybe 2 inch, I can't remember, but it goes into the trough and goes outside to a drain that's going to be out there where the water can go out and into the yard. And then of course, I tested it. I ran a water hose in there with the sump pump unplugged, and that thing handled all the water without the sump pump, and the basement wasn't flooding. And then of course I plugged the sump pump back in and it pumped it right out of there. Looking at the drains that I'm putting in here, and the water line, just shooting some video of what's here. Now that old septic line, the old iron one will be removed when the other bathroom gets tore out. Got the new water heater in, got a lot of the new water plumbing in place. I got everything I need for the bathroom, for the shower. And of course we'll have some more plumbing that goes on for the kitchen. That'll be a little later in the project, but just getting some video here of what water lines I have installed and what I got ready to go where I need to go when I get to that point. So got the sheetrock done in the bathroom on that wall back here. Got my valve put in, ready for my toilet. Got my vanity put in. Done some caulking and mudding and sealing around the window, caulking, mud, and seal around the shower. Got the shower faucet installed. I've got the vanity and the vanity faucet installed, and getting some things done on this new bathroom, looking good. So we'll keep on getting that put together. It's turning out looking really well. Here we got the toilet in place and getting things hooked up. Got some silicone on this backsplash and some wooden wedges holding it in place while the silicone sets up. Don't want it to move for a little while. And that's pretty much as far as I got on this trip anyways with the bathroom. And I learned something about I ran PEX pipe to my spigot, and you're not supposed to do that. There's a smaller inside diameter on PEX pipe than there is copper. And because of that, when I ran it, I was getting some dripping out of the shower head. Because it was enough restriction that the smaller inside diameter of the PEX pipe was enough restriction that it made the faucet think that I was pulling the little stopper to make the shower work. So what I was getting was when I ran the faucet in the tub, I was getting some dripping out of the shower. So I do need to go back, and I end up changing that. Just that one little piece of line that goes from the shower faucet to the spout. I had to make that copper, and that fixed that problem. Gonna be doing some demo now. This septic line, the old iron septic line, it's going to be coming out of there as part of tearing out this other bathroom. And I have a PVC line. You see the end of it right there. Now, that used to go to the kitchen sink, and it's not being used anymore because now you see the drain line that's running down this center beam. That now is the one that's connected to the kitchen sink. So that, since that's been rerun, that other line and this old iron line is all going to be part of the bathroom tear out. And then right here at this T, we can just cap this off when we get rid of that stuff we're not using anymore. So I got this video fast forward of tearing out the bathroom. It was really satisfying tearing out this old bathroom and the floor because this was really a problem area of the house. But I got to say that it was harder to tear out than I expected. And as far as demolition, I would say getting the tub out was the worst thing of all the demolition of the house. It was just really hard to get out of there. But I got it, and I used to come along to let down that iron pipe, and I'm using to come along to put the tub in the dump trailer to haul it off. And of course, all this wood where the toilet had leaked over the years, and also over here where the shower was at, there was leaking there. And I'm not fooling with any of this old wood. It's all just getting ripped out and replaced. One beam needs replaced, but mostly it's just the floorboards. And so we'll tear that out and put that back in new, and we're good to go. You know, it's coming to the front. You know, just tickled to death to see that old bathroom gone. And I got took 2 layers of 3/4 plywood to get up to the height of the hardwood, but we're looking good there. So the next thing I'm showing you, this is my safety system. The roof here is pretty steep. I knew I'd be here clearing out gutters. I knew I had the roofing to do, and I figured it'd be worth building something as a tie-off. So I built this 2 of these posts with the 2-inch pipe, and they're fastened in the attic. They're fastened to the structure of the roof as well. They go through a hole and they come out at the peak of the roof. So that's something that I've been using as a safety. And then we got going on insulating this wall, wiring in the wall. You can see I'm kind of pointing out how these wires are ran in the wall, and most of these are for outlets. Actually, all of them I think are for outlets. There's no switches in that wall. A lot of insulation and wiring getting done. getting ready for sheetrock, getting ready to getting that wall prepped to move forward with sheetrock. And then this handle you see I put in, got reinforcement behind there for that. So that's something important. If you want something like that in the shower that a person could hold on to, you really need something strong behind it that it's screwed to. So another thing I'm going to show you here, this pipe is just a pipe that runs from the attic to the basement with that 1T in the bathroom, so that wires could be ran through, or anything like a TV cable, internet cable, something that needed to go from the attic to the basement, basement to the attic, or like if you had an internet device that you wanted to put up on the wall in the bathroom to Wi-Fi in the entire house or something. Just a pipe I put in, not really using it for anything, but it's there if we need it. Something that I thought about for quite some time was whether or not I should tear this chimney out. It's never been used since I lived here as a rental property. The insurance company would never let tenants to use any sort of wood burning or coal burning device anyway. And nobody burns wood anymore, especially, you know, like in the city like this. So I made the call and realized how much more space would be available if I tore the chimney out. I was pretty intimidated at first about how much work it was going to be. And this is one of the things that was kind of opposite from the bathroom, because tearing this chimney out was a lot easier than I expected it was going to be. Tearing the bathroom out was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. You just run into stuff like that. And I'm starting now to work on the kitchen, and I realized I got to make myself a kitchen in the basement, because I'm staying here while I'm working here, and I use the refrigerator, the stove, and the sink and everything while I'm staying here. So I made me a makeshift kitchen in the basement. It worked out great. Used it for several months, and then I went at it, you know, tearing this chimney out, and I'm so glad I did this. This is one of the decisions that I thought about for quite a while, wondering if I should do it or not. But the way that chimney went right through the middle of everything, you know, between the kitchen and the family room in such a small place anyway, I really think that this was the right thing to do. And like I said, it was a double bonus that it turned out being a lot. It was a tremendous amount of work. Don't get me wrong. I don't really want to say it was easy to tear it out. I'm just saying it was a lot more doable than I thought it was going to be. It's just one of those things that you just got to get on it, stay busy, keep moving bricks, keep getting the stuff busted up. And as you go, you know, you'll get it. And like I say, I'm just glad that it was a decision that I thought about quite a bit. I'm glad I did it, and it turned out really well. There's a lot here in the kitchen as far as the flooring that I need to tear out. There's a lot to tear up, but I need to tear up. I only needed to get the chimney down to floor level to continue on with the floor. So the part of the chimney that's in the basement, at this point, I left it alone. I did end up tearing that out later, but at this point, I left that alone, and I just went on focusing on the kitchen. There were a lot of layers of stuff on the kitchen floor. There was a hell of a lot to tear out, because over the years, I guess, where people had tried to fix the floor, they were fixing the floor by adding stuff that they didn't need to be adding, because they didn't go underneath and fix what really needed to be fixed. There's a beam underneath that door that goes over an opening in the block that's just an unsupported area. That's what really needed fixed to fix this floor. Now, the way that I ended up doing it, well, you'll see later that I put a beam in there, and I got everything supported. I didn't jack the stuff up. I ended up leveling the floor with floor leveler, which I think is the right thing to do. I would have moved way too much stuff, but I would have to say that the panels of wood and the flooring that was in the kitchen here that I tore up, that stuff was probably a lot harder to tear up than I expected it was going to be. It was a doable thing. You know, wasn't like couldn't be done, but man, it was just like, you can see here where I'm driving wedges and Wonder Bar pry bars underneath of it. And it's not flying up in the air, you know, it's just barely moving a little bit at a time, And it was a lot of work to get it tore out. Got the super service truck pulling the rented dump trailer and my tractor in the back. Got some stuff here that the tractor is going to be a big help. I got the loader attachment and the backhoe on. And remember, we tore all those bricks out and tore out the chimney, got all these bricks to deal with and that flooring. So the tractor bucket is going to be a big help, and the dump trailer will be a big help getting rid of that stuff. And I got looking around, and something that I was kind of surprised about, and I should have known about before, was the yard being full of bricks. I remember seeing years ago on one of the real estate deed papers that there was a brick patio, and I remember seeing on there that this brick patio was like all over the place behind the rear door and even along the side of the place. Well, here I am years later, and I'm dealing with getting rid of some bricks, and I'm realizing that although I hadn't noticed or paid attention, there's bricks laid all over the place. So there's going to be a lot that I need to get rid of as far as getting them out of the yard as I'm making trenches for drainage. So that's going to be stuff that the tractor will help with. I was surprised that the tractor fit in the basement. It was neat to see that I was able to get it in there. But anyway, there's a lot of different stuff going on. Not just did I use the tractor to get rid of the bricks from the chimney, and a lot of the bricks I was tearing out where somebody had an old patio that the ground and grass and sod had kind of taken over, but also the digging here behind the place to add drainage and to get rid of some soil so I could put in rock where the rock could offer a lot better drainage. My big issue with drainage in the back here, I was realizing it has a lot to do with that tree. There's not much water can flow and be absorbed really right behind the house here because of the root system of that tree. And then also it's a little bit of a task digging to put in drains here, like for the gutters, for the downspouts, because you got to dig through all these tree roots. Yeah, it's a doable thing. It's just a lot slower than when you don't have a huge tree with a big root system like this to deal with. So I did get trenches in, and the trenches that we see here, there's going to be one on each side of the house for the downspouts for the gutter, like I said. Then the one there between those two doors is going to be an extra drain that I'm putting in for the basement. And then I'm making a trench. You know, I kind of have to go at an angle across the yard and get away from the tree. And instead of just going straight down the hill, I had to sort of work around the tree. And this is the way I decided to do it. Got a lot of rock on this trip. Lots of trips to the quarry, and hard job on the old super service truck. You know, for an F-250 at 20,000 pounds, she was putting in work. She's a beast. She really hung in there, and that thing's always done a great job for me. I love that truck. this spot right here, I got a little bit too much gravel in one area here, and this is one of the times where your quick attach loader bucket's kind of handy, the way that you can sort of use it as a wheelbarrow, you know, but it's better than a wheelbarrow because you ain't got to push it. You just pick it up and take it with you. Here I was putting in one of the lines. The drain was coming from the basement, and I wanted to make a slight turn in the tubing, and you can bend this PVC. Just warm it up a little bit, it'll soften. And so that's what I did. That's what I did to get my piece right there instead of buying an elbow, which buying an elbow would have been fine too, but I didn't have one, and I did have a torch, so that worked good. And getting some, everywhere I'm putting in drains, I'm also putting in rock. So you know, this will make trenches where hopefully the groundwater will go in the trenches and gone with the rock. And then we've got right here's the line coming from the basement if ever need be. Right here's a other small line coming from the sump pump. Then there's the line coming from the gutter, and then the other big line's coming from the gutter on the other side of the house. So what we got coming out here is actually 3 lines. There's the 2 4-inch lines from the gutters, and tied into one of those 4-inch lines is one of the drain lines from the basement. And then there's a 2-inch line, which is from the sump pump. And then I ended up rocking this all around in the back. And I'm hoping to try for a period of years to keep the weeds out of it and try to keep it weeded and try to keep the grass from growing and taking it over. It probably eventually will. Debated on what I was going to do about the yard, and I ended up tilling it all and kind of starting over. And I was really happy with how that turned out, but I had a lot of misfortune that came up, but you know, it all worked out good in the end. We got this pouring rain. Right after I got this done, we got this pouring rain, and I learned a lesson that I was glad I was there to learn. But actually the amount of water that was being poured onto my property from the parking lot of the apartment building beside me, you can see here where this water, it's just flooding. So here I am, I'm walking around out in the rain trying to figure out where this water's coming from. And I go to the 6-unit apartment building beside my house, and come to find out they've got the 6 parking lot space of concrete that's draining water. It's water that's coming from the street, water that's coming from that parking lot, water that's coming from the parking lot across the street, and it's all getting dumped onto my property, which this prompted me to do a lot of research on the law here, because I thought I was going to have to take this up with the property beside me. But you can see it cut a river in the spot that I had just fixed. And come to find out the way it works in the state of Virginia, this storm drainage is considered a common enemy. And the way the common enemy law works, anybody can dump their storm drainage water onto anybody else's property however they want, and there's nothing that the property owner can do about it. But that property owner that's getting dumped on can dump that water onto anybody else and drain it off onto anybody else's property however they want, and there's nothing that other property owner can do about it. It's just the way the law is in Virginia. So that's what I had to face, and that's what I had to deal with here. Well, now that we know what the problem is here and what's going on with this water, we got to take a look at what it's going to take to fix it. Now, obviously, this water is being sloped where it's coming towards my basement, coming towards the house. And what I actually need is I need a bit of a belly in that side. In this side of the yard, I need a bit of a belly so that all of that water runs right down the center of this section of the yard, and a slope from the house to that low spot to keep that water from going towards the house and to keep that water from going towards the basement. So I've re-excavated this, and that's what I got. I got a ramp that runs from the house to the center of the yard. I got a ramp that runs from the fence to the center of the yard, and I've got a little bit of a belly here up by the road. So water coming from the road should go into this little valley I've made. Water coming from the parking lot should also go in the little valley I made. And sure enough, while I was here, after I got everything seeded and mulched, we got a good rain, and it was enough to show that the water is now going the way that I wanted it to go. We got water coming from the road going down into the belly of the yard. We got water from the parking lot of the apartment building, and water from the sidewalk in front of the house. And all of it is staying right down the center, just like I wanted it to. And it's all running away from the house and right down into the city, the city alleyway behind there, where I was trying to direct it to. So I was not only fortunate to be able to get this re-excavated with my backhoe, but I was fortunate on this trip to get the right amount of rain to be able to find out for sure that what I did here worked. And it was a big relief, even though it's going to take me a while to get grass growing there because it's going to wash a lot of the seeds away, but we'll get it. I put in a light on this trip also. I wanted a light for out back here, and that's got a dusk to dawn setup on it. So I got that installed too. Up here on the roof, we got this spot patched where I took out the chimney. Up above here a little bit, there's another patch where I took out a vent, and I'll show you that vent in a minute. It's right over here in the yard. It's one of them things, I call them a spinner, where it rotates. I don't think it's necessary anymore on this roof. I believe that the amount of airflow I'm getting through the ridge cap is going to be, see, this didn't have a ridge vent originally. I added a ridge vent when I put on the roof, and you'll see that later. There was a damaged place right there that I patched, and then there's a place right here I patched where the old septic vent used to come up through the roof. And then the other thing we've got up here on the roof is my tie-off system. And right here's a small patch where I patched another roof vent. Worked on the trim, sanding, painting, caulking around the windows, and got those going in good shape. This old wood, this is old, tight grain wood. You can't get wood like this anymore. This is really good stuff. You know, this wood is really, really old. Had a ton of paint on it. Grinded all the old paint off and repainted it, and it's as good as new. Where there was any gaps or places between the boards that needed sealed, I sealed that up with painter's caulking, and areas between the wood and the exterior stucco, I caulked that with painter's caulking and painted over all that. Got everything sealed up really nice, and I was just tickled to death to reuse this old wood and just be, I was simply amazed at what great shape the old wood was in, knowing that it had been on the exterior of this house for all these decades after decades, and still, you know, that old tight grain wood, it just, I mean, it's 10 times better than the treated wood we got today. It's really, really good wood. Same thing on this side, same sort of wood, caulking and painting and grinding. All of this wooden trim that I worked on, I used it's like a grinding wheel for wood that you put on an angle grinder. I'd got it at, I believe it came from Harbor Freight actually. And it's really aggressive, and it really worked good. Rather than just sanding the stuff, it was more like grinding. And it was just it was actually an all metal wheel with like a burr, a bunch of burrs on it, and it worked in a way that really worked good to rip all that old stuff off. Now this window I'm showing you here, there was actually a really big place busted out of it or rotted out of it. I can't remember what was going on there, but I actually fixed that with concrete. I added in cement. I put some screws in to help the cement grab, and around the trim of this lower door, and there was a crack too in the back where I had done some cement patching, cement parging, repairing cracks, and on the smaller cracks, I repaired those with caulking, painter's caulking. So there was some of it was like cement parging work, some of it was caulking, just depending on what kind of damage we had on the exterior. And then, of course, you'll see later that I got a good paint job on everything, got it all sealed up nice. But this is what I designed for this house. And what I've done right here, you know, I've just drawn the roof on the angle that it actually is. This is life size. And the way that house is, you know, the way they built them in 1925, you'd have a vertical board right here, and then they'd put a crown molding in right here. There's 3/4 inch wide boards that are nailed to the roof joists that are on that angle, and it doesn't offer any good place to fasten a gutter. You could tear this crown molding off to make this flatter, but it's still too far back. The house did have a gutter on it, and the way they jerry-rigged the gutter on it that I removed is they took an 1.5 by 1.5 piece of wood, and they nailed it onto this board, and they stuck a standard aluminum gutter up to it and screwed into that. And there's places in that that's decent. There's places in that that's rotten, because the way it was done, water has been able to get behind here, which is what I'm preventing in designing the gutter system the way I'm doing it. And this is the eave protector that I designed. It comes down, it goes around that piece of 1.5 and comes up under the eave, and then there's a vertical down section right here about 3/4 of an inch with a hemmed edge that keeps this edge nice and stiff. And water can't get behind here. Water just can't get behind here. And if water goes around the gutter, even if this gutter was completely clogged and water was running down here, there's nowhere for it to go to make contact with the house. It's not going to happen. So I'll be putting the eave protectors on, and this is the gutter. The gutter has a piece that's going to run completely up underneath of the roofing panels. There's a back section that's going to come back and rest on this 1.5 by 1.5 piece of wood here. I've got a lot of my measurements and information wrote down. These are the edge rakers. These will be on each edge of the house that I designed. And so this is the section of sheetrock that I sat on the table when the representative from Lifetite was able to meet with me, and he came and he took pictures of all of this. And then he gets with his guys there at the shop with the brake, and they make these pieces. This is a piece right here. Now on my porch, at the bottom edge of that porch, like right in this area right here, there's some really deteriorated wood, and doesn't need replaced. It's not in the situation that we're in with this house, and knowing, you know, what I think's going to happen with the property. The roof that I'm putting on it is the one that's going to be on it when they tear it down. And this this steel piece that I designed that they made me, that goes on at the edge covers. This takes care of the fact that there's places on this edge that if you try to drive a nail or a screw, it might not hold because there's some bad sections in the wood. Here we've got, this is the porch flashing I designed, and what this is going to do is, this is the porch flashing that's going to go on top, where this little edge right here, that's going to be a hemmed lip that goes into a cut groove. I'm going to cut a groove with a diamond grinder, a grinding wheel designed to cut masonry. I'll be cutting a groove, and that hemmed edge will be pressed back, tapped back into that groove, and then a bead of sealer ran on it, so water running down the house, it won't be able to get back in there to the house. And then these are the smaller rakers sections. So I wanted to shoot some video of my drawings, and this is what this is the information that Lifetite got, and made my parts. So here we going on with doing the roof. All right, we get some images here. We can see what's going on piece by piece. Got that edge eave trim put on, and now we're putting on the gutter. They're only able to make those gutter pieces 20 feet long, so this is a splice section where I've got them a piece made where the gutter sets in one piece, each gutter, because there'll be two, since they could only make them 20 feet long. And each gutter will set into that set-in piece, and then another piece will go over the top. So that's kind of the way they're spliced. This is a look from the underside where you can see how the eave trim protects the up underneath eave there very well, and the gutter matches up to it in a way that just not going to be able to get moisture in there. Everything is right here from the side. You can see everything's going to be really well protected from the moisture. And the way I designed this with this gutter system, that metal that goes up along the roof is extra long, so you don't get that weeping water on the roof from that way. Here we've got the system I used to put the downspouts into the gutter, sort of using a hole saw and having to do two holes. We got our platinum underlayment down, and we're starting to put some roof on. That went pretty good. Amazing that I was able to do this completely by myself. And then we've got some images here of the different pieces as they went together with the end rakers and the roof. And this project of remodeling this house as a whole is one of the things that's been something in my life that I've done that I'm extremely proud of. And of this job, this roof is probably one of my proudest things, because I designed all these parts, and I really appreciate the guys at Lifetite Metals to be able to have fabricated these parts the way that I asked them to be. And it was amazing to me that I was basically able to design a metal roof that fixed all the problems and fixed all the concerns that I had about this roof. And another big source of pride for me was that I was able to install this entire thing completely by myself, especially on a roof this steep. This is a little bit steeper than the standard roof, so just standing on it is rough. That was the reason for the extra effort that I put into making the tie-off system. And I'm able to be tied off the entire time that I installed the roof. And every twice a year when I go to the house now and clean out the gutters, I'm tied off when I do that using that same system. Showing here where the power line comes in and the way that I refastened the power line to the house. That was a little thing I had to deal with while I was in the process of installing the roof, and it went real well too. Really like how all this turned out. And here's a shot, a little bit of a distance. Everything looks a lot better later when I get the house painted, but at this point, the roof's making the house look bad. The roof looks really nice to me, and it really shows how rough looking the paint job is on the house. So it's more noticeable, I think, now that the house needs painted as much as it does, but that's coming. So it gets taken care of too, just like everything else. It's all in due time. But here we're looking at the power line and the end rakers and pretty much the way the front of the house is going to look in the end. And like I say, really happy with it. This is a fast forward of some video of the installation, and it went real good. And you can see in this piece of video how handy my tie-off system is. And I've actually got a pulley. There's a cable that runs between the two tie-off pipes. I think at this point I was using a rope. There's actually a steel cable there now, but maybe at this point I was using a rope. But I had a rope between the two tie-off pipes, and then there's a pulley connected to that's connected to a rope that's connected to me and my harness. So as I went back and forth on the roof, that pulley would just, roll with a bearing across that rope, so that I was tied off all the time. And I had a device, it's like a belay clamp. I'm not sure what you call it, but I could push a button and allow the rope to get longer, and then if I wanted to push that button and pull some slack, I could tighten it up. And here we're getting a look at the power cable after I had secured it to the house and put it in the position where it belonged. And I also got some of the right color paint, and I painted that. Now there's a little bit of the vertical part right here in this image that wasn't painted yet, but the part that run down the raker, I did get it painted there. So it all got painted eventually, and what's left to do now is to move on to this little roof of the porch and put the metal on it, and it has its own set of edge pieces and a drip edge trim that goes against the house. And where it goes against the house, you had to use a diamond wheel that I'm going to show you in a minute. Use a diamond wheel and cut a groove in the stucco. Right here you can see that that trim piece has a lip right there where I'm showing with my finger. That has a lip that actually goes back into the stucco, and then that's sealed with sealant. So this is what the little roof of the porch looks like, all roofed up. And just looking at the roof overall here, just basking in the glory basking in the glory of having this completed, because I feel like this was quite an accomplishment to design this roof. And then there were no extra parts. I drove the Super Service truck with a trailer to Life Type Metals in Belington, West Virginia, and I picked up these parts. And then I drove over 200 miles to get to this house to unload these parts and install them. And, while installing this entire roof by myself, if I would have dropped one of these pieces, it would have been game over for the project. You know, it would have been something where I would have had to leave the house with the roof incomplete and drive back to Belington, West Virginia to get another part made to bring back, because there was no extra parts with having something custom made and custom cut like what I have here. So to be able to install all of those things, and all of those things fit beautifully and work the way it's supposed to without any damage, I was very, very pleased. I remember the entire drive back from this job of putting on the roof. You know, you'd had a hard time knocking me over with a sledgehammer. I was just, I was proud as a peacock of what I'd done. I really felt like Mr. Fix-It, and really felt like Mr. Accomplishment by doing this. And I've continued to be very proud of the roof here, because at the point of this re-edit, you know, I've rented the house out, and I've had it rented out for over a year now. And I go back, it's part of what I do. I go back to the house every spring and fall to change the furnace filter and clean out the gutters. And so every time I've went back, I'm going on the roof to clean out the gutters and inspect everything. And honestly, every time I've been back, not just the roof, but everything with the house is just excellent. And there's been no issues, no issues with anything, no leaks, no flooding. It all went real well, and I'm really proud by putting the care into it, and putting the care and taking the time that I did. It was totally worth it. Fixing up this yard, got a little more seeding, and mulching's got to be done where the seeds had got washed away in my valley I built there running down this side of the yard where my drainage goes. A lot of that got washed away. Just got to catch the weather right to get that to seed, and the rest of it that has already started. I got the sprinkler system with the timer set up and doing that. Now, another thing we got going on here is I got to vent this roof, and I've done that by making these holes. Now that I'm doing a ridge vent, I've got my steel roof on there that can vent through the ridge. I'm making a series of holes in the top, so the air is going to be able to come in the gable vents the way it's supposed to, and then escape out the ridge vent, and won't need any kind of a attic fan or anything else. Another thing we're looking at here is drain or vent for the plumbing, and it goes through the roof and also vents out underneath the ridge vent. There's two of those, and they vent under the ridge vent. That way I don't have to put a hole in the roof. Here we get a look through the yard where getting some good germination now. Hit the weather right where I got seed down and mulch down and didn't get a pouring rain right away. So the seed was able to stay in place and germinate. Now here, this is how I did the mud on this project. I didn't do any sanding really. Put the mud on and I smoothed it out with a wet paintbrush, and that was all the smoother that I bothered to get it. And then here in the bedroom, it's coming together, getting the mud smoothed out, getting the light boxes installed. All of the power boxes and switch boxes are in place. And now we got a couple coats of this good gray paint on here. I love this color. Got a good deal on this paint. And the difference on the paint inside the shower here is inside the shower I used oil-based. So that gray you're seeing that's really shiny in the light around the shower. Now, That's a Rust-Oleum oil-based gray, and I use that for extra protection from the water. So we're getting going on kitchen cabinetry now, and we got to get this scribed so it fits this goofy floor. So I fix up a scribe marker that makes me a mark equal to the largest distance gap that I've got. And then with my cabinetry perfectly level, I'll use that device to make a mark. And when I trim on those marks and the cabinetry goes straight down, we're going to have a set of cabinets that fits this floor perfectly and is still perfectly level on the top. So the scribe marker is critical. And the areas in between the three cabinets where I couldn't scribe, I have to make my cut and then line them up and then make the other mark for the in-between cutting. But that was no problem. And you can see here that it fits perfect, absolutely perfect. And it's perfectly level. So I have had people ask me how I sheetrock 12-foot sheets by myself. This is how I do it. I run 12 foot by 4 foot sheets of sheetrock. I run it sideways. I put the bottom one on first, and then I set the top one on top of that. And I use glue in what I call the fields, which is the middle of the sheetrock. And then on the border all the way around, I use a lot of screws. So I'm pulling the sheetrock against the glue that I've got in the center. Now I don't run full beads of glue on the studs. What I like to do is go thick with the glue in daubs, about 3 inches or so long, 2 to 3 inches. So it's 2 to 3 daubs across the 4 foot. Now this red stuff on the floor, that's a primer that I've put down in preparation for the application of my floor leveler that I'm going to use to fix this floor. The floor is sagged down from an issue with a beam underneath. I can show you where I fixed that here in a minute. But yeah, we got a big gap. When I lay my straight board down there, we see the big gap. And what we got right here, this Maypie, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Maypie or Mappy product is a cementitious floor leveler. And underneath of here, we can see where I've fixed the beam that caused the issue with the floor in the first place. Now, I decided not to jack it up. Rather than jack it up, I want to fill it, because I think if I would have jacked it up, it would have caused more problems. I just supported it so that it wouldn't go down any further, and then I'm using the floor level to make the repair. So what you see there is getting the floor fixed up good enough that I can lay tile on it. And I continue on getting the cabinets up. Wasn't any issue really as far as that goes. You can see here where I use a prop, and then on the countertops where the walls weren't perfectly straight, I use the same scribe technique where I'll make a scribe device that puts my pencil as far away from the wall as the biggest gap I've got, and then I'll scribe me a mark, and then trim that, and I get a perfect fit. The thing goes straight back, and then we're good to go. And then you put your end caps on your cabinets. They glue on with an iron, usually a heated, like a heat sensitive glue. But here we've got a pipe. This is just another pipe that goes from the basement into the living room wall, like where we might want to run a TV cable or an internet cable or anything wiring wise that needs to go from the family room down into the basement. That'll always be available there. And here we get to see the use of a device I built for the side of a super service truck. It's kind of like a glass rack, but in this case, I've got it set on there to haul sheetrock and insulation. So that worked really well. I'm going to run in the store here. Now, the reason this piece of sheetrock is significant, I got video of it because this is the last one. This is the last piece of sheetrock in the whole house. So I was glad to put that piece on there. And here our floor leveler is all dried up and looking good. Our cabinets are all in place and fitting good. And another thing I did over here to the right, where the floor was level enough to put flooring, but not really as level as I would like it for setting a refrigerator, I built a elevated pad for the refrigerator that is perfectly level. And honestly, when I got this done and got a refrigerator set on it, you'd never know it was there. But the way that it makes a perfectly level place for the refrigerator, it worked out really well. Running brand new gas lines for this house. One of the lines that's going to be the longest is going to be the one that goes from the source into the kitchen to run the cook stove. There's also gas lines, obviously, that's going to go for the HVAC, and I'm hooking up, I've got that heater down there. But this line I'm making right now is that long one. And the thing I do that's a little bit different than the way a lot of new gas lines are run is I'll cut and weld to make the gas line the length I want it. I'll cut a threaded nipple off and either weld a piece in the line to make it longer or cut a piece out of it to make it shorter. Like I say, that's a rare way to do it, but I qualified with Lincoln Electric. I had training in Cleveland, Ohio for API code 1104 to weld gas lines, and I also certified with Columbia Natural Gas and got my card as a certified welder to weld gas lines. So for me to take all these parts and haul them to a hardware store to have the ends threaded, that I don't have to do that. So I don't. So this is what we're looking at here. You can see where I've made the connections that I wanted to. There's the little weld that I made to shorten this line a little. And this line runs all the way down the main beam, down the center of the house, because the gas line source coming into the house is in the front. And I've got a valve there that it can be isolated and turned off. I got the emergency heater, wall heater in the basement. Here it's up and running, and it's set up where it's able to be used if ever the HVAC system would be down, like in the event of a power outage, because your regular HVAC furnace requires power to operate. And your gas lines will work even when there's no electricity, and your wall unit heater, like I showed there, will work without electricity. So it's nice to have one of those in the basement of a house. Getting ready to get the new HVAC system put in involves tearing the old HVAC system out. So the old furnace has got to come out. All the ductwork's got to come out. This AC condenser on this side of the house has got to come out. And I'm also going to be filling in this area right there. I'd like to be able to do away with this wall sort of and have a ramped area where you can walk down. And I'm going to do away with that window, but I'm going to keep this window. I'm going to do away with that window and probably just brick it shut and get rid of this AC condenser. So here's all of the old HVAC system. Got it loaded up in the trailer, getting it ready to haul off. And here in the basement, we can see where I've taken the breaker box and disconnected it from the wall. The wires are all still connected, but I put the breaker box in a garbage bag and tied it up out of the way to do the painting. Tore out the chimney out of the basement, and all of the good bricks I saved in a wheelbarrow, and I'm using as many of those as I need to fill in this window that I'm not going to use anymore. And the rest of them I dumped out there to fill in that side yard. Now, I was concerned when I power washed the basement that I was going to be filling up that trough. I didn't want the dirt and paint to go in that trough, and I found out when I started pressure washing that that's not even a problem. It was blowing it so hard away from the wall that it didn't go in the trough, which was great. And I'm shooting some video here of the places that I need to do concrete repairs in the basement floor. Some of this got repaired with cement, and some of it got repaired with caulking. But in order to get this ready to paint, I had quite a bit of little doodabs where I had to do repairs, and power washed out here also. I've got some cement repairs that need to be done on these stairs, so we're going to be doing that too. And then right here is where I've got a little footer made. I'm going to have to build a wall to pour a pad for my new HVAC unit here on this little bank. I wanted it back here. I didn't want it in the side where the old AC condenser was. I want the AC condenser to sit here because I think it's more out of the way here. And so I repurposed a lot of the bricks that I tore out from the chimney, and I built that wall. Gotta let that set up pretty good, and while that's setting up, I got my paint rig set up. This is my airless sprayer, and the paint that I'm using here is an extremely expensive, high quality paint that I got really cheap. This is from the mist tint pile. Lowe's puts their mist tinted paint up for sale in the mist tint pile at the paint counter. And these 5-gallon buckets of this paint, if you bought it new, would have been about $300. I got them for $50. So it's a really good quality paint in a really goofy color. But it was good for what I was doing. I used the pinkish looking stuff to get a base coat down. And then while I was letting that dry, I got everything ready to mix up my concrete and pour my pad here for my new AC condenser to sit on. Mixed up my concrete with my drill in a bucket. That's my favorite way to mix small amounts of concrete. And screeded that off with a board and smoothed everything out. And then just got to let that set for a while, and it'll be in good shape, and we get back to painting on the basement. So the walls, I had more of that high quality paint, but it was actually the top coat, the base coat I put on was pink, and the top coat I put on is this, I don't know if you call this purple or lavender, dark red, I don't know. But I didn't care what color it was. I just wanted a good paint job on it. So that's what I used. And then I was getting ready to load. I was loading up the air conditioner or my air compressor, and I was rolling it out of the house. And when I rolled it off the edge of the porch, the tank hit the porch, and this piece of concrete busted right off the edge of it. So I got more concrete to repair. We'll get back to that later. And we've got this to the point where I'm going to need a bunch of dirt. So we'll fill that in, and we got our pad ready for our new HVAC system. The new AC compressor will sit right here, and I think it's a lot better spot than where the old AC compressor was. And as you can see here, my buddy's been here. My HVAC guy has been here and put in the new HVAC. I was really fortunate that he was willing to drive all the way from West Virginia with his helper and come down here with this unit and install everything and build all the ductwork and put it in brand new and spend a night in a motel and finished it up the next day and headed home. Got it all hooked up online and replaced, and I'm just tickled to death to have this great unit. I was showing you there the filter. This is latest and greatest with regards to a filter system. You can actually stretch out your filter changes a year on this. I've changed it every 6 months, but it's a really big accordion filter that really makes your air quality nice. And then got the unit there outside on the pad, and then here is where I've replaced this one window and got everything sealed and mortared on the outside. And here I shot some video of using the grout bag to seal and mortar the inside. Filled all the gaps in and spray some water on there, and then I use a wet paintbrush and get everything smoothed out real nice. And got me a new window. I was glad to get that in there. Like a little natural light in the basement. It really brightens it up, even though I do got lights down there. And here on the outside, some of the cracking around that I repaired with painter's caulk. And I needed to let a few things like that dry outside, so I started laying flooring inside. I've got my hardy backer board down. I laid cement board and screwed it down, and then going down with some mortar and getting started laying some tile. The decision I made on the flooring in this house was I'm tiling all of it. I'm going to tile the entire house with the exact same tile throughout. Decided to do that. Even in the bedroom, it seems maybe odd for some people would want carpet in a bedroom or something besides tile, but you can always put rugs down, and I just wanted to simplify my idea on flooring and just lay the tile throughout the entire house. And the tile is something really durable, and it's given me an opportunity to repair all the imperfections in the floor. So that's what I decided to do. And another thing that's interesting about the way I did this is I decided to lay tile in an area about the size that I would want to grout. And the grout that I use is a very fast setting product. And you can't mess around with it. Once you got it down, you gotta stay at it, get on it and stay on it and get it cleaned off your tiles, because like I say, this is a type of grout that really sets fast. It's a professional use product. But here's the thing, the reason that I want to lay tile in an area that I can grout in one go and then go ahead and grout it is I've had occasions before where I laid pretty big areas of tile, and I laid all the tile before I did any grouting. And then I went back to grout it and found that I had gotten quite a bit of debris or dirt or things like that down in between the tiles. And it was very undesirable to have to try to clean that stuff out, especially the things that you might have dropped or something that fell in and got stuck between two tiles. And you're trying to vacuum it. It doesn't move. You got to pick it with a screwdriver or some kind of tool to get it out of there. For me, I think it was just a decision that I made the decision that I wanted to just lay the tile and then grout it. So since I've got everything ready here in this room, this is for this image right here shows all the connections for the washer and dryer for the laundry and the drain for that. And it's all ready to go, so we're going to keep on flooring. And right here's the piece of flooring that we've been looking for, the one we've been wanting to see, the last one. So putting that in there, you know, that's like the last piece of drywall. It was like, you know, man, glad to see that. I enjoyed doing it, but I'm glad it's done, you know, kind of thing. Well, so here we get a look at, this is a family room kitchen combination. You can see the flooring in here is all done, and appliances are all back in place, and got this door installed, and also installed the bathroom door and the trim around it, and was really happy with that. Those are not the highest grade doors, but not the cheapest ones. I got some mid-grade doors and put in there, and caulking and finishing up on this little piece, like my cabinet end, painting it. And then the weather was nice, so I jumped outside and got to work on the exterior, grinded the paint there on the front porch, and did some preparations really all around with the power washing and painting and concrete repair on the exterior, getting ready to paint the whole thing. And I got my idea put together of how I wanted to repair this. I'm going to use cap blocks. I'm going to be laying cap blocks, lay a row of cap blocks all the way across the front there. So it was time to get started with the painting. And the way I did this, I'm using my airless sprayer to literally drench the surface with paint. And as soon as I do that, then I take the roller and I back roll that paint. And it's important, especially on a porous surface like this stucco house, that you use your, at least on the first coat, you got to use that. You got to use that roller and force contact with that paint, with the porous surface, and that's way better than just spraying it. And here we've moved around to the front, pretty much the same deal, soaking her down real good with the paint, and then going back with the roller and forcing the contact and rolling it out and smearing and smudging, you know, painting it up. And a lot of people really hate painting, and I don't understand why, because in a very short period of time you can just, it's so satisfying to see how much better something looks. Here we're looking at, this is where I laid the cap blocks, laid a row of cap blocks across there. I got that tied in with some steel, and it's going real well. I was really happy with this paint. This is actually a paint for cement surfaces. It's a Valspar product meant for concrete and cementous type surfaces. I hadn't used it before, but it was I felt like it was a really good paint, and this color did a really good job covering too. Obviously it's not a super dark color, but it's a little dark, and the darker colors, they do they do a nice job covering. And the quality paint, with a good quality paint, you don't need as much. You know, I've used some cheaper paints that work fine, but you end up putting on more coats because it doesn't cover well. This stuff covered really well. So for the next little bit of doozing that we're wanting to get done, I got super service truck hooked up to the trailer, loaded up a bin full of good dirt. Got this and going to be taking it, and I got my tractor with the loader and the tiller, and we're down to Charlottesville, and we're throwing the dirt right on top of those bricks right there alongside of the house. I'd have loved to have a whole lot more dirt, but I didn't want to put too much time into it. I've got it with this amount of dirt. I've got it to the point where, you know, you can walk all the way around the house, which was difficult to do with that wall there. You know, you'd had to climb the wall or jump down off the wall to walk around. And so with what dirt I had, seeded and mulched, I said, we're going to call that good enough for now. Not going to mess with that anymore. And got the mulch mat put down and seed put down. And down here in the basement, those windows that I wanted to fix up, I got those sealed off with cement board and cement mortar, and touched up the paint all around on those windows that I'd covered up. So we're looking good down there on that too. So we're taking a look at the breaker boxes now finished. I've done all the wiring, and I want to show you the way I did this. You can see where I use a Sharpie marker to write on each individual wire where it goes and what it is. Then I use a label maker to mark each individual breaker, showing where it goes and what it is. And I like to bend the wires like you see here so that they're either running vertical or horizontal. I don't like a bunch of wires in there that are curled around or bent oddly or anything strange. It's a little bit better with regards to organization to have the wire come down, bend 90 degrees, and go straight into its breaker. And then the final thing is to put the cover on, and then use a label maker once again to mark inside of the box which breaker is which. That way, if any of these labels was to come off, you've got it marked twice. You know, I think it's not a bad thing in a man's life every once in a while take on a project that literally scares the hell out of you. In September of 2022, I decided I was going to remodel this house, gutter to the studs, rewire it, replumb it, new roof, insulation, flooring, walls, paint, interior and exterior. I live over 200 miles from here. I got a marriage to maintain, a business to run, and a YouTube channel to keep up with. But I'm done. I did it. It's finished. It's amazing. It's hard to believe. Hard to believe it's done, but it's done. And I love it.